So we're done with Pride and Prejudice. I'm very curious. What did you like best?
Okay, well, there's a lot, but I really like how it ended. I'm glad I knew everything would work out that way, for the record. Um, and so at the very or at where I started reading last, I think I was at like chapter 50 or something. Um, we found out that Lydia was getting married, so it like kind of erased the scandal because they're actually getting married.
Hmm.
But Wickham was really only doing it for money, but that's okay because they're still married and it's okay for the family, right?
Yep.
Um, and she also seems to really love him, which I don't think it goes around the other way. But
Hmm.
I
Do you
don't know.
think that that's going to turn out well in the end?
I think so. Um, I think it did too. It was
Okay.
okay.
I would be a little
Um,
bit concerned that Wickham perhaps down the road won't be a very good husband, but I'm
oh
glad
yeah,
you're optimistic. Well, just because
that's
he
true.
doesn't seem like a good human being, a good person, a good man. Uh,
He's, but we didn't know that a little while ago.
okay. Um, so yeah, well, how about what do you make of the way in which Elizabeth and Darcy finally kind of sort of got to the point where they were getting married? You know, there's that chapter when they're in the walk and Elizabeth kind of confronts him and all of that. What do you make of that whole sequence?
That was interesting. But before that, I think the Bennets host Darcy and Bingley to like a dinner party along with some of the other neighbors or whatever.
Yep.
And I know it like they were going to be okay in the end, but I thought weird how um in the beginning of that scene, Darcy chose to like not talk to her and sit away from her, and I was like, oh no, what's going to happen? Right? What's he mad about now? Um, Jane and Bingley's engagement kind of erased the tension from that scene or
Hmm.
lifted the focus away from Elizabeth and Darcy, which was fine. Maybe that was the purpose.
Yep.
Um, and then after that, I forget if it's at the Bennett's house or at some other location, which I forgot the name. But they do go on that walk, and they're like reminiscing, or after they get engaged officially, they were reminiscing about like how they met, what made you fall in love with me. It was very romantic. I liked it. I enjoyed it.
Hmm. So what do you make of the fact or Elizabeth's claim that in part Darcy liked how impudent she was? Do you think that is part of what charmed him was her impudence?
Yes, but before I comment any further, can you please tell me what impudence means? Because I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, kind of has an attitude, not quite aggressive. That's a bit much, but she's always kind of mouthy and negative. She's snippety with him,
Yeah.
she's not kind of warm and lovey-dovey. And I guess, one view, and actually this gets to something which for me is sort of interesting for gender roles in history that, sometimes you'll read about how, back in the old days, women didn't have any power or anything. And they were completely controlled by men. But I would say it's fair to say that Elizabeth is at no point controlled by um, either Darcy or her father. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure if it's like that for all the other families, but for them it's like that, yes.
Yeah. Well, and to some extent, I think people love to read Jane Austen today because Elizabeth is so independent. You remember, I'm skipping around. I know you want to go sequentially a little bit, but
It's
um,
okay.
when Darcy's aunt comes and tries to basically tell Elizabeth, shut up and stay in your place, don't marry my nephew. One I can imagine a different kind of novel where the author would, oh, and happily, I forget the aunt's name, but happily, Elizabeth stayed in her place and did not break the social order. Whereas, of course, I think one of the highlights is Elizabeth being impudent. Actually, I think um, Elizabeth's uh, almost rude. Well, I don't know. Would you say that Elizabeth was rude to Darcy's aunt or not quite?
Well, Darcy's aunt was kind of rude to Elizabeth, so I mean, it could go both ways, but I think that Darcy's aunt was more rude to Elizabeth than Elizabeth was to her.
And because, I mean, and of course, Darcy's aunt was much higher status than Elizabeth. Would you say that even though Darcy's aunt is higher status than Elizabeth, that because Darcy's aunt was rude to Elizabeth, Elizabeth had a right to be, um, again, I don't know if we want to call it rude or mouthy or, impudent is a great word, uh, back to Darcy's aunt.
I don't think it was correct then. I don't think that it would have been socially accepted if she had like confronted her in like a large room full of people, since she was so since the aunt was higher class than her, but since they were alone, there wasn't really any talk of that because they were alone.
Hmm.
Um, but realistically, yes, I think the aunt would have had a bigger argument as you're so low class, stop talking to me, kind of.
Hmm.
But there wasn't, and it was okay, I think, because I, that happened because of Elizabeth's character, and also because at that point she was kind of in love with Darcy, so there was nothing that can stop it now.
Got it. So it sounds like part of your read, and this is totally legitimate, is that because Elizabeth was in love with Darcy, even if it was rude to Darcy's aunt, she's not going to shut up and do as she's told, correct?
That's just her character, I think.
Got it. Um, just to kind of skip, to your own experience, have you ever been in a situation where you felt as if it was rude or inappropriate for you to say what's actually on your mind? And if so, did you shut up or did you go ahead and say what's on your mind? How does that relate to your own life?
I I'm not sure if I can relate to being in that kind of situation very much, just because uh I have very agreeable friends, and all the adults I know are very nice and don't think too low of me, I
Got
think.
it.
They don't have any reason to be rude to me, but I mean, I'm sure there will be, and I will not back down. I don't
Got it.
know.
Well, I was going to say, you mentioned Elizabeth's character, and so I'm wondering, do you think that you're a little bit like Elizabeth? Of the five daughters, which of the five do you think you're most similar to, personality-wise, character-wise?
Mm. Overall, probably not Elizabeth because she is more uh impudent than I am. I think I'm more agreeable
Mhm.
and I don't like to fight too much.
So
Um, I
maybe
don't,
Jane,
yeah, I think so, because obviously not Lydia. And then I don't really know a lot about the other two. There
right? The
wasn't
other
a lot of
two,
conflict.
the
So
other two
probably
are.
Jane.
Got it. Do you think that Jane would have stood up to Darcy's aunt the way Elizabeth did?
I'm not too sure. She seems less confrontational.
Got it. Well, I'm a little bit curious. Again, um, I don't want to kind of extend too far, but insofar as you are a fierce fighter in martial arts, but you acknowledge that you're agreeable personality-wise, do you think there are situations where you would be a kind of a fierce fighter rather than agreeable in kind of
Oh,
social
yeah,
situations?
yeah, for sure. In that specific situation where someone was like being rude to me about something like that, I would have stood up for myself for sure. But in other not too important situations, I might be the peacemaker instead of the arguer, I think.
Hmm.
But in most circumstances, I'm definitely gonna stand up for myself.
Got it. Um, and then, out of curiosity, when you are fierce on the mat, do you kind of have to let go of your agreeableness? Is it kind of a different Alana that goes out and fights? How do you reconcile your natural agreeableness, so to speak, with your, again, I've seen you on the mat, you're very fierce. So is it like a persona you take on, or is it kind of the inner Alana, or what's the relationship between Alana the agreeable and Alana the fighter?
Alana the fighter takes, or when I go on the mat, Alana the fighter does not like to lose, so
Got it.
she will
Got
do
it.
most things to not lose.
Got it.
That's
And so
the main reason.
going back to your statement that if you were in Elizabeth's state, if somebody tried to do to you what Darcy's aunt tried to do, you would stand up. It sounds as if, although you are by nature agreeable, if there's something really important, you would fight. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure. And I guess when I said I was more agreeable than Elizabeth, I meant that um, I wouldn't be so outwardly rude to Darcy. Like just in the beginning chapters, I
Got it.
would be more passive aggressive. Um,
Got it.
And uh, yeah, that's basically what I meant.
And she can be pretty rude for sure. I would
Yes.
say borderline shockingly rude from time to time.
Mhm.
Would you say that Elizabeth and Darcy respect each other?
Now they do, but before they did not.
Do you think that they're, and of course, there's a whole sequence, we've talked some about this, of how they went from the beginning to the end, but do you think that their growing respect for each other is part of why they love each other now?
Yes, I think so. And I think that ever since Darcy realized that he was sort of in love with Elizabeth, he respected her, but she didn't to him because of her reasons. But once she saw that he was misguided and or trying to help and or actually cool and has a big house and lots of money, she was like, okay, I respect him, I think.
Do you respect her less for the house being such a factor in her change in decision?
Not really, because that was the standard at that time. Like, oh, you got to marry a respectable and wealthy man. So I
Hmm.
can't really blame her. But yeah, I don't blame her.
Do you think that if Mr. Collins had lived in Pemberley, she would have gone for Mr. Collins?
No, I don't think that would have changed anything.
And why not?
I don't, I think Elizabeth was more non-traditional and she wouldn't have married someone if she didn't actually love him. So she did not love Mr. Collins.
Mhm.
Even though he didn't have like a, or even if he did have like a grand house like Pemberley, I don't think she would have. Her parents probably would have pushed for it more,
Mhm.
but I don't think she would have.
And what would you say is it that made her respect Darcy? How did she how did she come to respect him, or why does she respect him ultimately?
I think it's because of a mix of um his mistaken but actions with Bingley and Jane.
Hmm.
Um, oh, and also he funded Lydia's wedding with Wickham.
Hmm.
Small note. Apparently, it was because of his love for Elizabeth, so he wanted to support her family. Something that could have made her respect him more, but little things like that.
Hmm.
Also, once she got over her grudge and her madness, I think she realized that he's actually a pretty cool guy
Hmm.
overall.
Um, do you think that they will live happily ever after?
I mean, I think so. Uh, is there another book or something? Because I'd love to read it, but I think so, yeah.
Well, not specifically about them. Of course, Jane Austen has other novels, and we can go on to another one.
Right.
But I would say I have much higher expectations that Darcy and Elizabeth will be happy than Lydia and Wickham.
Oh,
Does that
yeah,
seem reasonable?
for sure.
Okay. Um, and in some ways, I would say Jane and Bingley almost feel like fillers. It is, you know, you know what I mean? It's sort of a side plot, and they're both nice and both decent, but kind of Lydia's the outrageous one, and Elizabeth is the definitely the protagonist of the story. Um,
Yeah.
but cool, yeah. No, it sounds like you enjoyed reading it.
Yes, that was awesome. I loved it.
Good. You want to read another Jane Austen novel in?
Yes, I would totally love that. Yes.
Okay. The next one, Jane Austen has several and they're all excellent, but I think Emma is the next one. It's Pride and Prejudice and Emma are usually the two most popular of her novels. So yeah, we can do Emma and it will be fun. It is, and I think knowing, again, it was slow in the beginning, but knowing that things pick up will help you get kind of through the slow part. I want to check in on how difficult was the reading for you.
It was a little difficult because of two main things. One, there was a lot of, actually three. One, there was lots of description, which is awesome. I love that. Two, there were lots of names, countries, or not countries, cities, districts, characters, um, manors, and houses. And I got some of them confused a bit
Yeah.
as Jane Austen uses it a little differently than I would. And
Hmm.
I don't use Mr. and Mrs. a lot just because um, my public school is a little different, so I never actually got used to saying that. So different, but awesome. Um, I don't know if I said two or three, but those are the main things.
Got it. But how about the long sentences? There are a lot of long, in
Uh,
general, English prose has gotten easier, but long, complex sentences and unfamiliar vocabulary, how are those for you?
Good. I had to look up some words like impudent. Oh, I didn't look that up because you told me, but there were others that I looked up,
Yeah,
so I could understand it better. And then the longer sentences were okay. I just had to reread them a couple times to understand.
yeah. And in general, I read very quickly, but there are a few sentences I had to go back and reread because, like, now what? Because they were,
You know
long
what
and
happened?
complex. Um, yeah, just in terms of words, how interested are you in words and vocabulary?
I mean, really interesting. I mean, I'd love to grow my vocabulary more.
Good. No, I
Makes me
highly
speak a little.
recommend looking up words, and you can kind of guess from context or pick up from context. So if you're in a hurry, or if it's just so interesting, I understand kind of not pausing to look up words, but I do encourage everybody to look up words and dig into it and become kind of a word geek and look up the etymologies and kind of enjoy, and I would say love to love words. By the way, English has the largest vocabulary of any language in the world. And so, as English
I bet.
speakers, we have more words to learn and master, by I think quite a large margin. And part of that is English has kind of absorbed so many words from so many different languages. It's kind of we've got a Germanic foundation, and then in come the French. So, the French conquered, or the Normans technically conquered England for a while. So it's kind of a francophone or French, on top of the English. That's why, my wife speaks French and she knows a lot of the fancy English words because many fancy English words were used by their aristocracy. And so kind of the basic words are Germanic, but the fancier words are French. And then, England was a global empire as well, so they absorbed lots of words. But yeah, I would say definitely look up words. And do you need me to find, or did you have a hard copy or did you read Pride and Prejudice online?
I read the first part online, but for Christmas I got a big four novel Jane Austen compilation. So I think I
Oh,
should have like all of them. Maybe
yeah.
there's
In which case, you'll definitely have Emma. I was reading it online, but I really like hard copy books better because I
me
spend so
too.
much time online and so forth. So cool. Tell me about your competition today.
Oh, I'm here for my brother. Sadly, I got injured and I'm out for a couple weeks.
God, I hope, apparently not a very bad injury, correct?
No. Something about either cartilage or tendon in my wrist. It'll be okay.
Okay. Okay, good. All right. In which case, good luck to your brother. And we will dive into Emma next time. It seems like the last couple of weeks we were doing 10 or 20 chapters. Is 10 or 20 chapters a week good?
Yes, that's awesome.
Let's say 10 chapters because I think especially going into it, we can be a little bit slower. So we'll do 10 chapters of Emma for next week. Have a great
All
week,
right,
Alana.
sounds good.
Yep,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
You too.